All right, hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about true forgiveness. My name is Dr. Cheryl Meyer. I'm a psychologist in my day job, but I often say I teach people how to, I help you navigate through your spiritual awakening, and all of life is a spiritual awakening. We're always experiencing some kind of awakening. And so, I was asking myself this morning after quite a rough day yesterday, why people don't face their own wrongdoing, why it's difficult for us to do that. All of us, wrongdoing, the world doesn't even like to say wrongdoing because it's just like our egotism never wants to be in the wrong. That it makes it insecure, right? But in the spiritual world, everything's like a different direction in a way. You can actually learn how to be strong by being weak. I don't want to sit with the ants anymore. Hold on. Last time I sat with the ants. I'll just sit right here on this hill. Okay. I love the tree though. So, true forgiveness. When you're equipped with knowing how to truly be forgiven, then you're not afraid to go out of your egotism and stop living in your egotism. Let your egotism die. First, be really present. The more you experience yourself and know yourself as, this soul that came from divine love, that came from God, that is given this body, then the more you can look at this stuff. You'll have courage. Hold on. I just check him. You'll have courage to leave your egotism, right? Take the time to be with me today. This video could change your life. I honestly know that it can, because I've had to come back from so many times of feeling humiliated, and because of my own choices to try to take a shortcut, because I didn't trust that divine love, God, had a better plan than I did. And so I created my own. And just day before yesterday, I won't say what I did, but I did something against my own conscience, and I hated that. It was horrible. The next morning, to wake up with that feeling, it was like a nightmare. And it's like I had asked for forgiveness before I went to bed, but when you go places, it had something to do with, I looked into someone's life that I ought not to have looked at, and I saw something that I wish I wouldn't have seen, and I knew better than to do that. I knew better, and I can't unsee what I saw, and it was just so disturbing to me. And so I was just thinking in the moment, what men may feel like, because this world has so much of what. I won't say, because some kids watch my videos, but you know what I'm talking about. There's such a prevalence of that on the internet, and it's just another shortcut. We can all just choose to try to fill ourselves up with a shortcut, instead of trusting that the highest path and the best path is what's best for us, and is what will feed our souls and will feed us the most, right? And so when I was in this place of waking up and feeling in despair, you know, feeling just wretched, and how could I continue on in my life? You know, I know I just can get traumatic, but it's like, hold on, there are people walking by here, so just be really present. Hi. The dog came up. They always come up to me because I ignore dogs. I know. I have one too. I love it. Have a great day. All right. I just mean I don't give all this attention to them and I just sit there. I don't know. Anyway, doesn't matter. Let that be a part of this, you know. This friendly dog came over to us, right? Even use that as understanding that, you know, these friendly animals don't judge you by the actions you did yesterday or the actions you'll do tomorrow. I don't recommend doing any of those actions. I wish to God, honestly to God, that I had not done the action that I had done. I don't know how it's going to affect the rest of my life. I can only trust more in the divine love, that the divine love can take it and use it as fertilizer and just put it back in the ground. You know, we have a comfort. There's a verse that says, you know, and God works all things for good for those who are called, you know, to him according to his purposes. He takes all things and works them out for good, for us, our salvation, for the cleansing of us, for whatever purposes, maybe to embarrass us on YouTube videos, not to embarrass, like humiliate, but just, I don't mind putting it out there in that, you need to know that whatever you've done in the past, whatever you've done can be forgiven. Now, the bitter part of this is we do have consequences for the choices. We reap what we sow. If I put a bunch of apple seeds in the ground, I'm going to grow up apple trees, you know. If I put a bunch of weeds in the ground, I'm going to grow up weeds, and it's going to be laborsome for me to pull those weeds and take them out if I don't maintain my garden and keep pulling out the weeds. You know, my kid asked me the other day, why do we have a gardener? You know, you don't have that much of a backyard, you know? And I was just like, are you going to go back out there and pull all the weeds out? Are you going to trim everything? Are you going to trim back the neighbor's trees so that they don't grow into our yard? Are you going to do that? And he was like, no. I'm like, that's why we have it. I got all defensive, and I didn't need to be defensive because, but anyway, if we don't do these things, if we don't spiritually, you know, understand we are a soul, we're in a body. Now, you can't understand everything at once. You know, I read from some saint book once. It's like when you go to when you go to a stream to go get water or whatever, like let's say it was a lake, a clean lake, you're not going to drink the whole lake. You just drink what you have there. And so my tendency is just wash me with like a fire hose, like clean it all out. I never want to do that again. I never want to do anything wrong again. I never want to hurt anybody again. And so it's important, you know, if we talk about like the 3 steps to forgiveness, to true forgiveness, is one, coming to a reality of understanding that what you've done was a trespass. I trespassed on myself. I trespassed on... It was something public, but it was something I knew better not to look into. And so maybe on the privacy of the other person or whatever. You know, even if someone, let's say the other thing that I was bringing up, if someone treats themselves like an object to just use to get money and to manipulate other people, when you choose to use them, you know, you're also treating them like an object, and we ought never to treat anybody like an object. The more we do that, the more we get in a habit of doing that, and we treat ourselves and those we love like an object because we got in a pattern of treating people like an object. So it's not just the one thing, it's the action of going against, let's say, your own better judgment or what you would recommend to a 14-year-old, or to your son, or to your daughter, or to your best friend, or to your sister, you know, to your mom, to just someone you love dearly, right? And so it's come to a real understanding of like, okay, what I did was not of highest love. It was not of highest love. And, you know, I always pray that God be merciful to me. You know, take the consequences that you can take from me, that you're willing to, and help me bear the consequences of what I brought in my life. Like maybe I ruined a relationship. You know, a lot of the time our egotism will say that we ruined something. Okay, so, but I have reprieve. And before it even gets to 15 minutes, because some of my social media cuts this off at 15, but the rest will be on YouTube. Let me give you this one prayer from St. Ignatius from a long time ago, and then I'll say it out loud so that people, I don't know if it's getting clear on here. It's called, in Latin, I think, Suscipe, S-U-S-C-I-P-E, but it says, take, Lord, and receive all my liberty, my memory, my understanding, and my entire will. All I have and call my own, you have given all to me. To you, Lord, I return it. So anyway, I'll keep going. Everything is yours. Do with it what you will. Give me only your love and your grace. That is enough for me. That is enough. And as you pray this more and more, I prayed this over the years. This is like an 800-year-old prayer or more. I think he was around the 1300s. I'll just say it again. Take, Lord, and receive all my liberty, my memory, my understanding, and my entire will. All I have and call my own, you have given all to me. To you, Lord, I return it. Everything is yours. Do with it what you will. Give me only your love and your grace. That is enough for me. St. Ignatius of Loyola. And he was a soldier. I'm sure he had killed people in war before. You know, he wanted to be this romantic soldier and win the heart of a princess, a true one. You know, I mean, before he converted, he was in convalescence. His leg had broken, and the only book that there was a book of saints, and so he became one. Actually, it's a very noble story. It's beautiful, but you have no idea how your life, turning your life, surrendering whatever you just did up to the divine, for the divine to use, the divine that created this whole world, that created all of us, can make good use of it and make good use of you. And so never let the enemy of our souls or the collective consciousness or whatever you've learned in society tell you that there's not redemption. There's redemption, there's forgiveness. So step 1 is recognize what you've done, and step 2 is ask for forgiveness. And step 3, let's say, I'll just put all 3 steps here, is equip yourself with all of these, with these prayers and with what other people have done. David, when he was caught in the sin of, he took Bathsheba, this woman, and slept with her and then killed her husband while he was out at war, had him killed. And he was the king, and he hid this. And someone was just teaching me about it this morning. And it was like when the prophet came to confront him, he told him a story about some other person who had taken this person's only lamb, and David was like, that man ought to be killed. We're very judgmental towards other people when we're hiding our own sins. So Christ told us not to judge. We're not meant to judge other people. And also, even with yourself, I heard that phrase this morning. It's like, challenge yourself without judgment. Challenge yourself to live on the highest capacity, your highest love, highest path of love, but without judging yourself. That is like it's a mystery to enter into how to do that. It's taken me a long time to do that. Let me give you this other prayer that I go to. This is the one I went to, right? I want to say it before the 15 minutes runs out. When this happened, and I felt devastated so many times. Jean-Pierre de Cassat, now the rest of this will be on my YouTube. He says, all you do, just go to the Lord as if in the extreme horror of the attacks of the things you've done, and say, Lord, you are all powerful and goodness itself. It is for you to defend me and to preserve me from all evil. That is beyond my power. I accept this suffering for love of you. Only keep me from all sin. Afterwards, let it remain in peace. In the midst of the storm, it will find itself strengthened without knowing how, by the hidden hand of God. So that's in a book called Abandonment to Divine Providence by Pierre, right? And so he says, I just have an ellipsis where I start, this is from the 1500s, but it says, the effects will be experienced eventually, the effects that God hides from the soul at the time for its good. Therefore, bear yourself as a criminal in his presence, as a victim of his merciful justice. This is the best attitude for a soul in this state. Adopting any other, it would never find peace. This apparent destitution and abandonment has but one aim, which to increase self-distrust and to compel the soul to cast itself with greater confidence into the arms of God. It sees no other help, and even that it cannot see. Faith and faith alone must suffice without any other support. The sensitive part of the soul can do nothing to affect the will and God expects nothing from it but the free choice of the will, which has complete mastery over its acts. The best disavowal of the temptation is the extreme horror of its attacks. No good can be attained by making a multitude of acts, trying to be all righteous and trying to recompense for it yourself, make restitution when you can make restitution, right? He said, but these would only serve to trouble and fatigue the soul. It is best to keep to the following act, which comprises all that is required of it. And here's the prayer again. Lord, you are all powerful in goodness itself. It is for you to defend me and to preserve me from all evil. That is beyond my power. I accept this suffering for love of you. Only keep me from all sin. Afterwards, let it remain in peace in the midst of the storm. It will find itself strengthened without knowing how by the hidden hand of God. I'm going to put this here so you can take a picture of it. Right? And screenshot and go back to that. Print it out yourself. Because I go to this all the time, and it's just like, it feels embarrassing in a way if I'm going to judge myself, but I choose not to judge myself, but take full self-responsibility. This is the egotism does not want to. The egotism wants to judge other people and wants to hide from its own wrongdoings. But it's a gift. It's a spiritual gift and a discipline to come to terms with the wrong that you've done, which is just missing the mark of perfection. We're called to perfect love. We're all called to be saints. We all have access to the power of God in us. It says there's no temptation except that which is common to man, and through God we are able to withstand temptation. There's always a door out. Call on the divine love. So when I said the first step, recognize the wrong that you've done, and then to ask for forgiveness. When you ask for forgiveness, this is talking about forgiveness, but when you're in the temptation, I have a 1-minute video on temptation, what to do in temptation. Watch that over and over. It might be in a minute and a half, over and over, until you understand those steps were given to me by the divine, and by feeling horrible about the wrongs that I've done. I have kids, and they were little, and when you lose your temper on your kids and you see their precious faces, you know the effects of your wrong right away, if you have a sensitive heart and a sensitive soul, and we all do underneath the hardness, so ask for forgiveness, and then get resources so that you have them ready for you, so that you can turn immediately, because the enemy of our souls wants to keep us. He's called the accuser, and wants to keep us in feeling bad. The ego doesn't care. It can feed on you feeling bad or you feeling self-righteous. And so to be forgiven is this higher state. And so another prayer that Brother Lawrence gives us, he writes a book called Practicing the Presence of God, and he says, for the greatest pains or pleasures of this world were not to be compared with what had been experienced of both kinds in a spiritual state, so that he was careful for nothing. He's talking about himself, but he's writing as if it's someone else. And feared nothing, desiring but only one thing of God, viz., that he might not offend him, that he had no scruples. For he said, when I fail in my duty, I readily acknowledge it, saying, I am used to do so. I shall never do otherwise if I am left to myself. If I fail not, then I give God thanks, acknowledging that it comes from him. All the good comes from him. Almighty God, here's the prayer he says, giver of all good things, without whose help all labor is ineffectual, and without whose grace all wisdom is folly. Grant, I beseech thee, I ask you, that in this undertaking thy Holy Spirit may not be withheld from me, but that I may promote thy glory and salvation of myself and others. Grant this, O Lord, for the sake of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Oh, sorry, that was Samuel Johnson. That was what he prays before he does everything. He was the great doctor that wrote the Oxford Dictionary. Here, I'll put this here so you can see these two as well. But the first part was Brother Lawrence. When he was just, it's like a prayer that Brother Lawrence says. He says, like, when I fail in my duty, I readily acknowledge it, saying, I'm used to doing this. I shall never do otherwise if I'm left to myself. And if I don't fail, then I give God thanks and acknowledge that it comes from him. Everything comes from him. Our goodness, the word good comes from God. The word good comes from the word holy. Like Good Friday means Holy Friday. I just learned that last night from someone. So anyway, I have a meeting and I'm going to be late, so I got to go. I wish you so much love. Use these things. I made an acronym over Ignatius's prayer. Mule, M-U-L-E. Don't be stubborn like a mule. Give God all your memories, all your understanding, all your liberties, your freedoms, and your entire will. And, God gave me this once in a song. La vie en rose. He says, give your heart and soul to me, and life will always be la vie en rose. Your life in rose. And rose is rise, open your soul eyes, live from your soul perspective. And there's so much sweetness that comes when you completely surrender everything to God. You eventually feel that forgiveness again and know it and do all you can not to hurt other people, because you want to walk in love and you feel the sweet love of God because you're just honest and you say, just look in everything, and you're enlightened because you let the light come in all the darkness. All right. But it hurts to go through the darkness. It does, but you're worth it. You are worth it. Your parents might have taught you by their actions you're worth it, but you are worth this. All right. Much love.